When I started reading the latest reviews of Silversea, I was taken aback. Long-time guests suggested the line has rapidly slipped in the past 18 months since I'd last cruised on it. Comments like shabby, cutbacks, no longer luxury, or not worth the premium kept cropping up. Now, having cruised on Silversea 6 times in recent years and having always rated it highly, I wondered if things could have changed that much. There was only one way to find out. Welcome aboard, I'm Gary Bembridge, and I booked their newest class of ship, Silver Nova, and as always paid the going rate via my travel agent to ensure an unbiased review. And this is what I discovered. First, a quick reminder of what Silversea is. Silversea is a 5-star ultra-luxury cruise line owned by Royal Caribbean. Its closest competitors are Seabourn, Regent Seven Seas, and Crystal. It's best known for having the largest fleet with 12 ships, 8 classic and 4 expedition. This review will focus on their classic cruising side. Silversea are also known for all grades of suites having butlers, and recently they've become known for their SALT program, Sea and Land Taste. This is designed to give passengers more regional food and drink experiences on every single cruise. Silversea are also known for having the most diverse itineraries in the category due to the number of ships and the different classes of ships that they've got. This leads me to the first key criticism I saw of Silversea, with critics saying many of the ships are increasingly shabby. However, having been on some of their older ships like Silver Spirit, that's actually not my experience. But I do think one issue about Silverseas these days is the lack of consistency of the Silversea experience, because they have 4 different classes of ships, and the experience on Silversea does hinge, I feel, based on which ship class you go on. They have 2 392 passenger ships, Whisper and Shadow, which have now been in service for 25 years. There's 680 passenger Silver Spirit, which has been in service for over 16 years, 3 596 passenger ships, Muse, Moon and Dawn, which first came into service about 8 years ago. And now there's a 728 passenger Silver Nova and Silver Ray, which came into service in 2023. The 4 classes are rather different, with the most dramatic difference being the new Nova class. You do get a very different experience, venues, and different decor based on the class of ship. The Nova class is unlike anything else in the fleet, and in fact of any of the ultra luxury competitors. It's a very spacious ship, has a strikingly different, lighter and more neutral decor to many of their other ships, but also has a unique asymmetrical design, which means that instead of things being centered, some areas like the pool is on one side with wide open views to the ocean, and there's big open spaces everywhere. Versus their other ships, the SALT experience and venues are bigger and more of a feature. I'll come to the SALT experience in more detail later, but it is a key focus of these ships, and it's much more integrated than their other ships, which they are kind of retrofitting. The layout and location of venues on these ships is not as per the other ships, and being so different, some long-standing Silversea guests criticized it, even on my sailing, as they found it jarring and not the familiar Silversea layout and decor they know and love. While it has many of the usual Silversea venues by name, they all have been reimagined, and some felt a little bit for the worst. Some found the ship louder and noisier than the other ships because some of those key venues are now much more open. For example, the Arts Cafe is kind of in a walkway on deck 4, it gets very crowded. Dolce Vita, the large bar and lounge, again is kind of part of a walkway on deck 5. The theatre is dramatically different to other ships. It's kind of almost like a traditional hall layout. A few venues were too small, like the fitness centre was definitely not large enough for today's more active clientele, and on sea days it was challenging, I found, to get equipment to use. Personally, I really liked this new modern ship and the reinvention of cruise ship layout. It did probably feel a bit less Silversea based on past trips, but with larger cabins, lots of space inside and out, it felt very unique and it felt very innovative. I do think one issue though is the 4 classes of ships do mean some lack of consistency. As you move around the ships, you get a kind of a different experience. I have to say the last ship I was on was Silver Spirit 18 months ago in South Africa, and it did almost feel like a different line versus being on Silver Nova. But all the ships I've been on, I found are really well maintained. Another issue I saw critics complain about, both in the reviews and the thing most people I met on that trip spoke about, was the food. When I think of Silversea compared to the other ultra-luxury lines that I've been on, while the food is great and suited to the category, it's not the standout thing for me compared to, say, Crystal and Regent that I do think pip them in this area. In my view, they have some strengths, some average areas, and some perhaps less good things, all of which I'd like to talk about. A key strength is the SALT program. While it's rolling out across the fleet, on Nova it was well integrated. But what exactly is the SALT program? Well, the SALT restaurant is one of the 2 no reservation main dining room options at night, alongside Atlantide, which is their classic main dining room on most ships. In here, the menu reflects the region being sailed through. It doesn't change every day, it kind of evolves every few days. On my trip, it was Asian and Japanese influenced food because that's where we were cruising. Then there's the SALT bar serving regional and local cocktails. There's also the SALT Lab Kitchen, which runs regional dish cooking classes. Now, these are actually included in the fare. In here, by the way, they also offer the SALT Chef Table for an added charge with a tasting menu linked to the region. The team running SALT cooking demonstrations in the theatre as well, which I really liked because they gave lots of context and background to the regional dishes they were showing. They didn't make the dishes, they gave you lots of background. Finally, in some ports, there were SALT food-based excursions. I found them a little bit on the costly side though. SALT is a big plus and gives us a chance more than any of the other ultra-luxury lines to get immersed in regional cuisine and drink. Another strength for me is the Spaccanopoli pizza venue. It's good and available. It was open from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. On Nova, it's part of the marquee, the grill, which I also rate as a strength. Unlike the grill on the pool deck on most of the fleet, this is a standalone venue. It is on deck 10, but it's quite away from the pool area. Open for breakfast, at lunch for burgers and more comfort casual food. And then for dinner, they have Silversea's signature hot rocks in here, where you can cook your own steak or seafood on the hot rock. But they also have a more diverse menu as well. It's a great alfresco option for warm weather sailings. Another key strength for me is their signature silver brunch, which is held once during many cruises with unbelievably amount of stations, caviar, seafood, so much more. So what did I see as more average? Well, I think Atlantide main dining room remains average, but amongst its competitors. It has a daily special section, but the bulk of the menu is a kind of a classics menu, doesn't change very much. The food is great, it's fine, though I found people were quite critical of it. I don't find it as elevated as some of the competition, but I feel that it's pretty good and delivers. Lazzaretza buffet is also pretty good. It's open for breakfast and lunch. At night, it turns into an Italian waiter-served menu restaurant. It's a pretty good menu. It changes very little, so can become a little bit samey if you go there a couple of times on a cruise. For me, the miss, which is the same on other ultra-luxury lines, is there is no casual dining options for dinner other than pizza. I think this is out of step with modern cruising, especially on an intensive itineraries. It would be great to have a buffet option in the evening. Now, for example, we had 8 ports back to back in Japan. Sometimes I just wanted that casual night buffet style dinner, but there was none available. What did I think was less good when it comes to dining on Silversea? Well, first, unlike the competition, there are several added charge restaurants, which with the high fares and supposedly all-inclusiveness of ultra-luxury, I feel is a bit of a mess. On Nova, there was Kaiseki, an Asian restaurant with an $80 per person charge for dinner, though lunch was included in the fare. I liked the lunch, by the way. I went a couple of times. I enjoyed the sushi. Others were more mixed on the quality. Then there was La Dame, the French specialty restaurant with a hefty around $160 charge. Now, this has been significantly cut back to about $100 per person before a wine pairing charge. Then there's the Salt Kitchen Chef Table I already mentioned with that charge. I think the other thing I put in the sport category is they've dropped daily afternoon tea. They used to have years ago. They did have one grand afternoon tea event in Atlanta during the cruise, but I think it's a pity because all of their competition have a daily afternoon tea, which does feel luxurious. So while I do not see food as top in the category, I don't agree with critics saying it's gone downhill or it's not great. Another area critics have commented on was seeing cutbacks, reduction in inclusions, and a general sense of more penny pinching. I saw and heard many comments that Royal Caribbean bean counters have taken control and started to slash things that made Silversea special and luxurious. So let me address the main criticisms I saw both before my recent trip and what I heard on my trip. The biggest one happened just as my trip was ending, when Silversea made a significant change to their fares and the structure of their fares. So they scrapped the highly all-inclusive door-to-door fares, which had flights, transfers to and from home, pre-stay hotels, transfers to and from the ship, all excursions. And they also had a less inclusive port-to-port fare, which included excursions. Those have been scrapped, and they've been replaced with effectively cruise-only fares that no longer include excursions, and where items like flights, hotels, transfers, and excursions are now all add-on charges. There are 3 fare types now: all-inclusive plus, which has some credit to put against excursions, fully refundable deposit, and a fare match guarantee. Then they have all-inclusive, which has a 75% refundable fare, and then they have last-minute fares available from 5 months before sailing, subject to availability. Now, Silversea regulars were pretty unhappy because they felt the line was no longer the all-inclusive one it was, with all those items stripped out and extra charges. And they also didn't like that the fare guarantee and fully refundable deposit is only for that top-tier fare. However, in fact, this move brings them more in line with Crystal and Seabourn, leaving Region 7 Seas, certainly at the time of making this, the only line with inclusions like excursions in all their fares, and some of the region fare options still include flights, pre-stay hotels, and transfers. But their fares are higher than Silversea. Personally, I really like the change because I felt the excursions were getting weaker because they were becoming largely just walking and bus tours. Many iconic things that I wanted to see in a port weren't included in those included excursions, and on both recent trips to South Africa and this one to Japan, I ended up paying for the chargeable excursions to make sure that I got to see and do the best things in every port. Now, it's hard to figure out if all this is hiding a fare increase, because as they introduced the new fares, there's been a lot of deals, a lot of promotions, but I don't see that so far, though perhaps it was actually a way to avoid having to raise fares by keeping all those inclusions. A second area many critics say has been cut back is the included wines. Now, I'm not a wine drinker, so I have to rely on those that do, and it was pretty mixed and rather inconclusive. Many people told me they felt the wines were not as good as they had been in the past, but in fact, as many people said, they enjoyed the options that were included. I did feel, though, that there definitely felt like a bigger push than I remember on previous Silversea cruises for the connoisseur added charge wines. They were very prominently listed on all the menus, and I often heard the sommelier suggesting those to passengers. I did also notice that, unlike some of the other ultra-luxury lines like Crystal, where if people were not keen on the daily recommended wines, instead of being offered those added charge, they'd be given a long list of wines which were kind of included in the fare overall, and they could choose those rather than pay for added charge options. The third thing I do find strange is when they moved into Starlink, they restricted the included Wi-Fi in the fare. So they now excluded voice and video calls and streaming. So I had to buy the premium streaming package. It seems a squeeze too far, considering again those high fares. Fourth on this topic, critics said they were seeing more push on sales items and added charge activities on board. Personally, I don't think that's changed, nor is an issue. They still don't have things like photographers, sales table outside the shops, and so on. There were some paid for activities like premium wine or whiskey tastings. They had always daily spa offers and daily shop events and casino tournaments. But I don't think there was any more of those than there used to be. I think, though, since Royal Caribbean have taken over, they've put a lot of money into Silversea, particularly in the new fleet, upgrading older ships, and just overall putting much more investment into kind of the hardware of the line. Which brings me to the next point, where there theoretically is a Royal Caribbean effect, although I'm not sure it's as big as expected and promised. Many critics say they find Silversea entertainment rather average. The cruise director on my trip often spoke about how being part of Royal Caribbean Group meant they could tap into the expertise to invest and do and upgrade the whole entertainment. There is a shift, though, but not dramatic compared to past trips I felt. Though they did actually launch a couple of new shows on my sailing, so maybe it's still work in progress. It's still a small production cast of 4 singers and 4 dancers with a good-sized live band for all shows. The shows were the standard cruise line song and dance themed shows like Limelight, which was kind of musicals themed, Dance on Fire, which is Burn the Floor inspired 35mm blockbuster film songs, and so on. The singers on my sailing were all from South Africa. They were very strong, but the shows themselves didn't to me seem anything innovative or particularly elevated. But I do have to stress that they went down really well with passengers. They were always well attended, so I guess perhaps they do know their audience and what they're looking for. The guest entertainers were standard cruise staff, magicians, country and western, rock singers, and so on. There was a good amount of live music in the evening with sets by that band. There was a pianist, a violinist, and a saxophonist. As with all ultra-luxury lines, the daily program is pretty light, with an emphasis on enrichment with 4 guest speakers of varying quality and a bit random topic-wise because they don't pay speakers, so I assume the program is driven by who they can book at any particular sailing. There was an arts and crafts person, there were bridge teachers, so lots of enrichment. Much of the rest of the program was focused on group activities where passengers could collect points to redeem for merchandise at the end. Bingo, trivia, shuffleboard, putting, bago, those kind of things. They were, though, always very popular and always packed. So I didn't feel the critics are fair to say entertainment is average, as it more than holds its own versus other ultra luxury lines. But where does Silversea stack versus these other lines? Find out by joining me over in this video, where I put all of the 4 ultra luxury lines head to head and discuss what they do well, do less well, and who in fact is the best of all. See you over there.